have heard the music of John Williams, even if they do not know his name. John Williams has scored the music for over 100 films, many of which were directed by Steven Spielberg. These films included Jaws, E.T., Star Wars, and the first 3 Harry Potter movies. Many people consider John Williams to be the greatest music composer for films of all time, and he is known especially for his lush symphonic style, which helped bring symphonic film scores back into vogue after synthesizers had started to become the norm. Joe Hisaishi is considered the John Williams of Japan and is thought to be the greatest music composer for films from Japan. Many people have heard the music of Joe Hisaishi through his involvement in Japanese anime movies if they do not know his name. Joe Hisaishi has scored the music for over 100 films. Joe's long career as a music composer and frequent collaborator with film directors Hayao Miyazaki or Takeshi Kitano has allowed Joe's music to grow from his minimal music roots to lush symphonic sound and Japanese pop songs. His stature as a composer allowed him to score the highest grossing domestic films in both Japan in Spirited Away in 2001 and in China in Let the Bullets Fly in 2010. Joe has become a well-known and in-demand musical composer for films, anime series, and video games. He has become a talented concert pianist, pop star, art director, orchestra conductor, and college professor. We will explore Joe Hisaishi's career and growth as an artist. Mamoru Fujisawa, known professionally as Joe Hisaishi, was born December 6, 1950 in Nagano, Japan. He took to music at an early age when he began violin lessons at age 5 at the violin school of Suzuki Shinichi. During this time, he developed his passion for music and for movies. He watched 300 movies a year with his father, influencing his music and career for years to come. In junior high school, he realized the enjoyment of writing musical scores as opposed to playing them and decided to become a composer. He was exposed to all types of music through high school and college. Joe stated, "When I started taking piano lessons as exam study for music college, I listened to all kinds of jazz music while in high school, as well as classical and minimalist music." He attended the Kunitachi College of Music in 1969 to major in music composition. Joe got his first success of the business in 1974 when he composed music for a small animation movie called Gaitoruzu. This work and other early works were created under his given name, Mamoru Fujisawa. During this period, he composed for Sasuga no Sarutobi, or Academy of Ninja, and Futari Taka, or A Full Throttle. As he started to become well known, he came up with a stage name inspired by African American musician Quincy Jones. In Japanese, Quincy is pronounced like Quishi, and in kanji, this can be written as Hisaishi, and Joe comes from Jones. Thus, Joe Hisaishi became Mamoru Fujisawa's working alias. In the 1970s, Japanese popular music, electronic music, and new age music flourished. These genres influenced Hisaishi's compositions. Joe's first album, MKWAJU, released in 1981, showed his minimalist influences. MKWAJU is an inventive and riveting take on Eastern and Western minimalist traditions, African rhythms, and early electronica. Primary MKWAJU is a percussion ensemble that highlights minimalist music. MKWAJU highlights minimalist music by the repetitive patterns or pulses, steady drones, consonant harmony, and reiteration of musical phrases or smaller units. In 1983, a record company recommended Hisaishi to Hayao Miyazaki as a possible candidate to create the image album for Nausicaa of the Valley of Wind, which at the time was being made into a movie. Hisaishi's soundtrack for Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind was a balance between electronic and classical music, a blending of new compositions along with covers of Handel and Brahms music. The image albums are albums of 3 to 5 minute pieces that have a certain motif or thematic material, and these pieces are assigned to motifs and themes in the film. At times, this image album piece gives a sense of personality to individual characters of the film. Miyazaki was highly impressed with Hisaishi's image album and frequently listened to it during the production of the film. The soundtrack for the film was slated to be composed by his producer, Isao Takahata. However, after Miyazaki's strong recommendation for Hisaishi to do the soundtrack as well, The infamous Hisaishi Miyazaki collaborative pairing we know today first came to be. Afterwards, the pair would go on to produce 8 more films together. This partnership with Hayao Miyazaki led to Hisaishi's overwhelming success as a composer of film scores. In 1986, Laputa Castle in the Sky would be the first feature film to appear under the Miyazaki Studio Ghibli banner, and its gentle, faintly melancholic tone would become a familiar trademark of Hisaishi/Miyazaki's later output. This film was so popular that Disney produced an American release of the film 13 years later. Hisaishi was asked to extend the score of the film. According to Hisaishi, this was because Disney staff believed that Americans would feel uncomfortable if there was no music for more than 3 minutes. While Hisaishi's original score was only 60 minutes long, the English version ended up being over 90 minutes of music. Since his musical style had changed over the 13 years, he rewrote the entire score. He maintains the well-known themes, but rearranges many of these synthesized segments for full orchestra. While he had access to all the sounds of a full orchestra back in 1986, his newer style takes more advantage of them. The first segment of the score in the original film starts with synthesizers playing in a continuous rhythm likened to music from an outdated video game. In his newer score, this repetitive motif is tossed playfully around the various sections of the orchestra. The changes in instrumentation keep the music engaging and also reflect the personality of the characters in the film in different ways. This is a perfect example of the difference in Hisaishi's style, orchestration color. Star Joe Hisaishi became known as one of the budding anime industry's top musical contributors. His compositions would proceed to become some of the very hallmarks of early anime in the 1980s and 1990s. He composed music for TV and movie favorites hits such as Voltron, multiple Mobile Suit Gundam movies, and Kiki's Delivery Service. As the anime industry grew, so did the reputation and demand for Joe Hisaishi's music. As Joe composed more film scores, much of his work started to develop many of his musical signatures. His melodies and chord progressions take similar turns and sometimes almost identical turns. Some of his musical signatures are shown in the video of One Summer's Day from the Academy Award-winning movie Spirited Away. The video shows the roll chords in the upper range of the piano that have a tonally ambiguous feeling. The music highlights the supernatural themes of the movie and has a magical quality. The piece has a beautiful melody and is very peaceful. Some of the music in the anime movies was deliberately aimed at being pop music and catchy to get people interested in the films. Several Miyazaki movies are directed towards children. These movies for children all feature pop songs at the end of the films that play over the credits. My Neighbor Totoro and Ponyo use the thematic material from their film scores as a basis for the choruses of the pop songs. Each song is very simple with easily memorized lyrics for the children. Joe Hisaishi composed music for more than just anime movies. Joe had a long partnership with director Takeshi Kitano over 7 movies from 1991 to 2002. Takeshi Kitano was originally a well-known comedian. Takeshi's films are generally about gangsters or police. Referring to a film, A Scene at the Sea, Hisaishi stated in an interview, "The atmosphere of the film matched perfectly with the style of solo compositions. Kitano did not want an overtly melodic score, but a minimalist and repetitive score. These rhythms are highly minimalistic repetitions that usually repeat over changing a chord progression. The continuous rhythms balance well with the slow-paced action on the screen, giving a sense of motion where there is very little to see. This contrast in music pace to visual pace implies emotion in the character's thought process, not the physical actions. The orchestration styles of the Hisaishi-Kitano collaborations are different from those of the Hisaishi-Miyazaki collaborations. This reflects the contrasting nature of the movie styles of the two directors. Kitano makes live-action dramas, violent yet artistic, while Miyazaki makes anime fantasy epic adventures. Thus, this difference also reflects a combination of director style and budget. Because Miyazaki's films are more mainstream, they often allow for a larger budget, enabling larger instrumentations. Kitano's first films with Hisaishi in the early 90s has synthesized scores, while Hisaishi's score for Miyazaki always used a full orchestra. The minimalist rhythms used in Kitano films are done on an electric marimba that is never heard in the Miyazaki film scores. The different processes of collaborating that Hisaishi uses with the two directors may be partially explained in the end products. With Kitano, Hisaishi scored a scene at the sea after the movie was already filmed, but was involved with Sonatine from the very beginning of his production. Their collaborative relationship was shorter than his collaboration with Miyazaki, where the collaborative process is always the same. Hisaishi says, "The basic process of our working relationship has not changed since 1984. I always make a driver or image album before putting my music on the final soundtrack of the film." This process may explain why Hisaishi's scores for Miyazaki have strong thematic content. The title track Summer of the Kitano film Kikijuro in 1999 eventually became one of Joe Hisaishi's most recognizable musical pieces. This song continues many of Hisaishi's signature musical elements. Joe Hisaishi has been recognized for his contributions to music numerous times. He has won the Japanese Academy Award for Best Music 7 times. In 2013, he was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts. In 2010, Hisaishi returned to his roots, becoming a professor at the Kunitachi College of Music to fulfill an endeavor to teach younger generations about music composition.